it doesn't happen all at once. There's no single moment you can point to and say, that was it. Instead, something shifts quietly, almost politely. At first, it feels like confusion, not sharp pain, not collapse. Just a faint sense that something didn't land the way it used to. You replay a moment and realize your reaction came later than expected, not because you didn't care, because something paused. That pause is new. Before your responses moved quickly. You felt things immediately. You reached, explained, adjusted. Now there's a fraction of a second where nothing happens. It's so small most people would miss it, but you don't. You notice the delay. You notice how your body stays still while your mind watches. And that watching feels strange. The next time it happens, you tell yourself it's nothing, just a bad day, just tiredness, but it keeps returning. Not in the same way every time. Sometimes it's a flatness, sometimes it's distance, sometimes it's the absence of a reaction you expected from yourself. What unsettles you most is that you're still present, still listening, still engaged. Yet something essentially isn't moving anymore. You don't rush toward the moment. You don't lean in emotionally. You don't absorb the way you used to. It's not a decision. It's like a reflex that didn't fire. People around you don't notice it first. Why would they? You're still polite, still responsive, still available on the surface. But internally, the texture has changed. Things don't pass through you the same way. They arrive and stop. And you start wondering when that happened. Was it gradual? Did you miss the moment it began? You search your memory for a clear cause, an argument, a betrayal, a breaking point. But there isn't one, just a series of small moments that felt heavier than they should have. Comments that stayed with you longer than expected. Silences that felt louder than words. Nothing dramatic enough to justify a shift. And yet, something shifted. That's what makes it confusing. If someone asked you what was wrong, you wouldn't know how to answer. You wouldn't even know where to begin. Because nothing is wrong in the obvious sense. Life continues. Relationships continue. Conversations continue. But you stop giving something without realizing it. You stop offering reassurance before it's requested. You stop smoothing emotional tension automatically. You stop filling silence, not intentionally, not defensively. It just doesn't occur to you anymore. There's a sense of watching yourself from a slight distance, not dissociation, not numbness, more like containment, as if something inside decided to hold rather than release. People might describe this as becoming colder, more reserved, less expressive. But those words don't feel accurate. Cold implies absence of feeling. Reserved implies intention. This feels like a recalibration that no one announced. You still feel deeply, sometimes too deeply. But you don't move toward those feelings the way you used to. You let them sit. And that sitting changes everything. Before, closeness felt natural, effortless, almost automatic. Now, closeness requires something extra. Time, safety, consistency. And even then, there's hesitation, not fear, assessment. You notice how quickly others expect access, how easily they assume you'll carry emotional weight, how often they lean without checking if you're steady. These things didn't bother you before, or maybe they did, but you didn't register them consciously. Now you do. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. This is where assumptions start to break. People say repeated pain makes you hardened, that it closes your heart, that it makes you guarded. But what you're experiencing doesn't feel like hardening. It feels like compression. Like something that used to spill outward is now being held inward, not locked away, just conserved. You notice your reactions becoming smaller but more precise. Fewer words, more silence. You listen longer than you speak. You observe more than you engage. And strangely, this doesn't feel heavy. It feels stable. That's what confuses you. If this were damage, wouldn't it hurt more? If this were shut down, wouldn't it feel empty? But it doesn't. It feels controlled, intentional, even though you didn't choose it. Here's another detail you can't ignore. You don't feel the urge to explain yourself anymore. Before, misunderstanding felt urgent, dangerous. Now, it feels tolerable. You let people misread you. You let assumptions sit uncorrected, not to punish anyone, but because correcting them feels unnecessary. That's new, and it makes others uncomfortable. They sense the change. They just don't know what to call it, so they test. They push emotional buttons. They used to work. They repeat old patterns. They wait for the familiar response. Sometimes it doesn't come, and when it doesn't, they feel unsettled. You feel calm, not triumphant, not detached, just unmoved. As calm is misleading. It makes people think you've stopped caring. But caring hasn't disappeared. It's just no longer leaking. Something inside you learned to hold itself together quietly, without ceremony. And that's where the real question begins to form. If this isn't closure, if this isn't distance, if this isn't coldness, then what is it? Because whatever is happening didn't come from one event. It came from repetition, from something being asked of you again and again until the answer changed on its own. And once that answer changed, it didn't need to announce itself. It simply stopped responding the same way. That's the part most people miss, and the part you haven't fully named yet either. At some point, you realize you're no longer bracing yourself the way you used to. There was a time when every interaction carried a quiet readiness, a readiness to absorb, to adjust, to make space. That readiness isn't gone, but it's no longer automatic. Now, before you move toward someone emotionally, something checks in first, not fear, not calculation, recognition. You recognize patterns faster. You sense when an exchange asks more than it gives. You feel when closeness arrives without care. And instead of pushing past that sensation, you pause. This pause is what people misread. They think you're withdrawing. They think you're shutting down. They think repeated pain finally closed you off. But internally, nothing is closed. Something reorganized. What looks like distance is actually a refusal to dissolve. What feels like coldness is actually compression. What appears to be withdrawal is the end of automatic self-exposure. This is where the truth becomes uncomfortable. Repeated hurt doesn't make an empath numb. It teaches them discernment without words. Over time, the system learns what the mind tried to ignore. It learns that openness without reciprocity isn't connection, that empathy without protection isn't kindness, that constant availability quietly erodes something essential. So the body adapts before the story catches up. It stops offering everything at once. It stops leaning forward reflexively. It stops translating silence into responsibility. This adaptation doesn't feel like strength in the moment. It feels like neutrality. But neutrality is powerful because neutrality means you're no longer pulled by every emotional signal that passes through the room. You still notice. You still feel. You just don't give it all away immediately. That's the shift. And it changes how you relate to people in ways you don't fully explain. You don't chase clarity anymore. You don't repair misunderstandings at your own expense. You don't rush to reassure someone who hasn't shown care. You allow things to reveal themselves. Some people lean closer when this happens. They slow down. They meet you where you are. Others grow uneasy. They feel the absence of your old responsiveness. They feel the loss of your emotional labor. They don't know how to reach you without it. So they label the change. They say you're different now, harder, less warm, but warmth was never the issue. Access was. Repeated hurt taught you something no explanation ever could. That being reachable isn't the same as being safe. That giving endlessly doesn't guarantee understanding. That staying open at all costs eventually costs you yourself. So something inside you learned to close the door gently, not slam it, not lock it. Just close it enough to breathe. This is the part that doesn't get talked about. When an empath is hurt repeatedly, they don't become distant from others first. They become closer to themselves. They start noticing when something feels off before it turns into pain. They trust the pause. They let silence do some of the work. And once that happens, they can't go back to the old way of being, because the old way required them to disappear quietly so others could stay comfortable. This new way doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't announce itself. It just remains. And that remaining is what changes everything. You're still capable of deep connection. But connection now has a threshold, it has pacing, it has condition, not rules written down, rules lived.